Rhea Ripley has revealed women's biggest obstacle in WWE, and it is not their ability in a wrestling ring. It is not the charisma that they have on a microphone, and it's got nothing to do with the fact that none of them have characters and are all 100% bland. The biggest reason the women are being held back in WWE is because apparently men take them for granted. Welcome back, guys, to Fog Wrestling. And honestly, I do not know what is happening in WWE right now, especially over the past week. I think it's got something to do with the election. I'm not sure if it's because Mr. Donny T has won the election, but we're seeing a lot of women come out recently and basically just say that they're not getting treated with enough respect. They're being taken for granted. They're not getting enough television time. We've seen Tiffany come out and say that she doesn't get enough TV time, despite being the Miss Money in the Bank holder. She's on SmackDown every week with Nia Jax, cutting really cringy promos, really bad promos. She pretty much jobs it every single week, yet she's claiming she doesn't get enough TV time. And now we have Rhea Ripley saying that the biggest obstacle for women in the WWE is the fact that they get taken for granted. My name is Rhea Ripley. And that was a really bad Australian accent. Bloody Rhea Ripley. But I'll tell you what's been taken for granted. I think the women are taking their fortunes for granted. They're taking the fact that they have locked into this new era for granted, because newsflash, the women aren't as good as the men. I don't care whether it's on the mic. I don't care whether it's in the ring. I don't care whether it's displaying personality or displaying charisma or having a character or just star power in general or the ability to carry a company or anything like that, whether it comes to drawing ability or merchandise or whatever. The fact is, the men have always been better than the women, but this era of women, they are the ones that truly take it for granted, in my opinion, because if they weren't part of this woke generation that had to force everything down your throat and you had to give women every single thing you gave men, or else it was considered sexist, or else it was considered misogyny, if they weren't part of this era, they would be nothing. They would be nowhere. They would not be where they are right now. They wouldn't be forcing us to watch half the shows featuring women. They wouldn't be forcing us to watch half the shows on premium live events getting women's matches. We wouldn't be going into WrestleMania with so many women's matches. They'd be lucky if they got one. So they're taking it for granted that they are part of this era, because we've seen in previous eras, women got over in the Attitude Era, women got over in the Ruthless Aggression Era, because they were able to use their sex appeal, and that got them over. We've seen what happened to women when WWE went PG. The women couldn't cut it. Now, why couldn't the women cut it? Because they're not as good as the men. In the PG era, the women were nowhere to be seen. People were crying. They were getting like 2-minute matches. Everybody wanted to save the women's division. And then when they pushed the whole women's movement, and it was WWE trying to please everybody by having this fake movement that they pretend it was legit and organic, but it was shoved down our throat. That is when the women started getting 50-50. That's when they started sharing. And look how bad wrestling's got. And I think it is to do the correlation with wrestling being awful and women taking up 50% of the screen time. That, for me, isn't a coincidence. I think there's something in that. So, yeah, look at how women were getting on in wrestling before the world got so woke and after, the sex appeal stuff ended. Look at that little period of time. I say little, it was actually quite long, but look at women from about, say, 2009, 2008, 2009 to about, 2014. Look at that 6-year period. Women were doing shit in wrestling then, and these women today are taking it for granted that they're not in that era, because they'd be absolutely nowhere. Anyway, this is what Rhea Ripley said, and it just feels like they're all making excuses, man. It's embarrassing if you ask me. But she said, quote, being taken for granted, I think the women in WWE, we've come a very, very long way. We've overcome a lot of obstacles that were put in the way, and it's been growing each and every year. I think that the biggest obstacle was just getting people to sort of take us seriously for the longest time. People joked about us being the toilet break, which is just plain disrespectful, especially when the women go out there and leave everything that we have out in the ring, and we go just as hard as the men do. So don't treat us with that disrespect. So we're making people realise that we can go just as hard as the men, and if not harder. End of quote. You can't though. Bullshit. You can't go harder than the men. If people want to believe that you're the bathroom break match, then that's on you. It's not because you're a female. It's because you put on the worst match. It's because you're the least important thing on the show. It's nothing to do with your gender. Okay? I totally disagree with that. I think when Trish Stratus was coming out looking hot as fuck, I doubt many men were going to the bathroom. And if they were going to the bathroom, you know, they were probably going to the stalls. They were probably going to do something. They were probably going there for a reason. Maybe they were taking a magazine of Trish Stratus with them. But honestly, the bathroom break, I mean, if you're the bathroom break match, then that's on you. That says a lot about you. You don't automatically get assigned the bathroom break match because of your gender or because of your weight or because of the division that you're in. If you're in a prominent role, if you're good, if you're a star, nobody's going to go to the bathroom while you're on. So honestly, man, it's victim mentality. That's what it is from the women in WWE, and we've seen a lot of it, especially this past week. I don't know why. I'm assuming maybe it's to do with the election. But yeah, Rhea Ripley saying don't disrespect us. We work just as hard as the men. And it's strange because she says that, you know, we go just as hard as the men, if not harder. And she's allowed to say that. But God forbid a guy. Could you imagine the criticism and backlash a male superstar would get if he came out and said we go harder than the women? I guarantee you he would be getting forced to apologise. He'd be getting criticised. He'd be getting bombarded from all sorts of angles. Mom, misogyny, how dare you say that? But with the women, they can say stuff like that all the time, that we go harder than the men, even though they don't. Even though they fucking don't. Honestly, if you place two men in women's bodies and they wrestled the same match, people would say that the match sucked. But because women wrestle the match, they pretend it's a lot better than it actually was. If you want to have equality, and if you want to hold people to the same standard of wrestling, then why not do that? But right now, it's like the women get... Like, if men put on a match that is like, let's say we get a men's match and it's like a 7 out of 10. If women put on the same match, fans would be saying that was a 10 out of 10 match, one of the best matches of all time. Yet, if women put on a match that's considered to be a 10 out of 10, if men put on that same match, people would be going, it was an okay match, it was a decent match. They wouldn't be saying it was that great. So, again, we've just got a lot of double standards here. And Rhea Ripley accusing the WWE men of taking the women for granted. Honestly, man, she can fuck off. I've seen enough of her on my TV screen. She puts me off watching Raw. I'm sick of Raw. It's the Rhea Ripley show. You've had your time with the belt. Why don't you just piss off? I'm sick of seeing Rhea Ripley. Honestly, cannot stand her. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think. I don't take the women for granted. She could get released, and I could not care less. So I'm not taking her for granted. I don't even want to see her. That's how I feel about Rhea bloody Ripley. Anyway, that's it, guys. Catch you in the next one. Until then, peace.